it's me, Sage. And greetings and salutations, especially to all our Grove students. Last time, we talked about the foundation of everything. From self-improvement and growth to spiritual practices and advancement. And that's mental discipline. One of the best ways to achieve that is through the practice of meditation. So in the Wiccan Way Grove, as with any kind of spiritual art like witchcraft, meditation is an essential part of the work you'll be doing. Now, some people have more natural talent than others, so they've been having success without much effort towards meditation, and that's great for them. And other people, like I pointed out in the last lesson, might have been using meditative states regularly without even realizing it was a meditative state. So they may have been training their minds all the while without realizing it. And again, that's pretty awesome. So don't doubt yourself if you feel you've made any kind of strides or progress with few to maybe no real deliberate attempts at meditating. Mental discipline can be achieved through many activities, and maybe the way you were raised or maybe some activities you do have contributed to the mental discipline you'll be needing, and maybe you have some natural inclinations. I've known people who make strides without any kind of formal training or on meditation, but for most people without meditation, no matter how much natural mental discipline you manage to achieve, you're only going to get so far. And most people who I know, more importantly, even if they came out strong out of the gate, who later got stuck, fizzled out, never really got far in Wicca, witchcraft, spells, or any of their spiritual work, they find themselves floundering. Or Wiccans who struggle to grow with their rituals or with magic, they're usually the ones who don't take meditation very seriously, or who don't even bother trying to lay the foundation. So, in my opinion, it's better to start meditating, no matter how much natural talent you may have. And no matter how far you can go without any kind of effort to meditate, you're always going to get farther if you did meditate. So any serious students here, I'd like you to consider starting a meditation regime. And we're going to start slow. And as the weeks go by, we're going to experiment with different types of meditation as Grove goes on. Remember, meditation is like exercise. Progress is going to be gradual. It's all about consistency. It's going to build up over time. So try to get rid of any expectations right now, and let's just let it happen. Let's see where it takes you. Like I said in the last video, meditation is not what a lot of people expect it to be, and there are very different types of meditation with different goals. So think of this more as experimenting and observation rather than some kind of ideal you have to achieve real quickly. I just want you to get comfortable with meditation, with meditative states. The first meditation that we're going to start with is a simple one called mindfulness. Often we go through life doing things mindlessly. Not all of us, but many of us. Especially in modern Western cultures, we have a tendency for our minds to race with lots of different thoughts. A lot of those thoughts revolve around dwelling on problems or mistakes or things in the past. And a lot of those thoughts revolve around worries or concerns about the future. How are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to get something done? What are we going to serve for dinner tonight? Whatever, small to large worries. Our minds are always wandering off, often to unpleasant thoughts. Sometimes our minds even wander to more pleasant thoughts, reliving like a great date we might have had last week, or our last vacation, or our favorite TV show episode, but it's still wandering, and that's the point. The mind is wandering, it's not present. And mindfulness is a type of meditation in which we train our minds to come back to the present and to stay here for a little while. The goal of mindfulness is to put your awareness in the present moment. Now, you can do mindful meditations while sitting still or while you're up doing tasks. It's especially good for you to do when your mind would normally wander, like when you're walking or showering or folding the laundry or doing dishes. The goal of mindfulness is, as I've said, it's to put your awareness in the present moment. So if I were sitting in my yard being mindful, I'd be aware of how my body felt sitting on the grass, my posture, my comfort level, how the grass smelled, how the wind or the sun felt on my skin, the sound of the leaves rustling or the birds chirping, how cold or hot I might be. You act as an objective, outside observer to your inner activities when you're practicing mindfulness. You don't judge your thoughts. You don't judge your experiences. You allow them to unfold and notice them. Instead of judging them, you note them and you may question them. The wind feels so relaxing blowing through my hair like that. Those birds are kind of screechy, the ones that are chirping above me. This ground is cold when my butt is touching it. My back is starting to ache when I sit in this position too long. I'm starting to feel peaceful. We're bored, we're restless, we're happy. I wonder why. Interesting that I'm starting to feel that way, whatever it may be. Now, whatever happens when you do get distracted, you don't panic. What happens if you're caught off guard and your mind starts drifting to how you have to mow the lawn this week, how you forgot to check the mail and you need to pay the rent, or how your sister-in-law really pissed you off at the family barbecue last weekend? At that point, don't beat yourself up over it. If you've noticed that your mind is doing these things, it's okay. Just acknowledge that thought and let it go. You might question it. That issue with my sister-in-law is coming up now. That's interesting. I'll have to think about that later. I'll resolve that later. For now, I'm returning my awareness to this moment. One great way to help bring yourself back into the moment is to use an anchor. An anchor in meditation is something that you focus on that helps direct your awareness or your concentration. In this case, in mindfulness, the best anchor you could use, or actually in a lot of different kinds of meditations, the best anchor you can use is your breath. The breath makes a great anchor. First of all, it's always with you. Second of all, you return to that simple act of breathing. What could be more present than that moment? So, to sit and do mindful meditation, you might sit down, get yourself comfortable, begin focusing on your breathing, and then allow your awareness to expand to whatever is going on around you within that moment. Maybe the lights are buzzing, or maybe you hear a siren, maybe there's the smell of incense, or maybe it's cold, maybe it's clammy, maybe it's comfortable and soft cushion that you're sitting on. Whatever is going on in that moment. And you take note of it. And when you feel your awareness is leaving the moment by some distraction, or more likely when you realize that your mind has kind of gone off on its own tangent, acknowledge that distraction and just nudge your awareness back to the moment by placing it back on your breath. your breathing, and the in and out, and the up and down of your chest rising, diaphragm rising. When you practice mindfulness, don't try to control your breath. So you're not going to try to do any deep breathe in, hold, deep breathe out. We're not doing that here. You're just going to let it happen naturally, whatever your natural breathing rhythm is. Don't have to count it. You don't have to force it. Don't try to control your thoughts. Don't try to force yourself to think of anything or clear your mind or push thoughts out of the way. You shouldn't be trying to do anything, just gently nudging your awareness to where you want it to be. To yourself, your body, your interactivity, your environment at this present moment, and your interaction with that environment. Now, as I said, you can also do this kind of meditation while moving. You don't have to sit still. So you really have no excuse to practice it. At least, a few minutes a day. In the shower in the mornings, instead of letting your head race with all that you need to do today or ruminating over everything that happened yesterday, you might put your awareness in your breath and then move on to how the water feels, temperature, pressure, the stream going down your skin, the steam rising, the drips, the hard enamel beneath your feet, or the cold tile that your arm brushes against occasionally. Maybe the smell of your soap or shampoo. Mindfulness is actually a great practice to get into. It can really help alleviate stress and help you get through your days in a way that's much calmer and more relaxed, and can actually make you a happier person. There have been interesting studies that I'm going to link to some talks on them and articles on them in the Grove, but there's interesting studies that show happier people tend to live in the moment more often than those who are unhappy. People who live in the moment just tend to be happier in general. One had a bunch of people who'd be texted at random and asked, "What are you doing? What are you thinking about? And how would you rate your happiness at this moment?" And it found that people who were being mindful, putting their awareness in the moment, who were focusing on what they were doing, were generally rating themselves as happier as people who were thinking about their divorce, thinking about the fight they had with their friend, thinking about all the stress they have at work, thinking about the bills and all the terrible things that they have to do. But what's interesting is, you would think someone who is thinking negative thoughts and kind of ruminating over all the stress and bad things that happen to them would not be as happy. But mindful people were also happier than people who were thinking good thoughts. If you were kind of fondly remembering your last vacation while you were bored at work, or your favorite TV show, or the hot date you had last week and it was really great, and you're just starting to get smitten with somebody, you got all these warm and fuzzy feelings, their happiness wasn't even rated as high as the people who were mindful and living in the present. Living in the moment tends to keep people more content, happier. Now, our minds haven't fully evolved yet to live with the pressures of our current lifestyles in modern culture. And this is a real problem. It's not just a problem that affects us mentally or affects us emotionally, such as with our happiness or with depression and things like that, but it impacts us physically. It has a huge impact on our well-being and health. Humans have the fight or flight response, which is the body's stress response to a threat. And nature put this there forever ago so that humans would react efficiently when there was a real threat, like a large predator stalking us or a natural disaster happening, and it triggers all kinds of stress hormones that slow down the net responses that are less necessary and the systems that are less necessary, like the digestive system or something like that. And instead, it gets our blood pumping and our oxygen up, and pupils open wider, and this helps us prepare to fight or flee. We get pumped up, the fight or flight response. Now, the problem is the brain can't really tell the difference between the real threats, like a saber-toothed tiger about to pounce on us, or the imagined threats, like when we are reliving those terrible moments or going over and over those worst-case scenarios that we're worried about happening. So when you're thinking of all those things that worry you or that upset you, or you read, political blogs and you get really pissed off and want to yell at people a lot because they just drive you nuts, you're putting your body into that fight or flight response a lot. And your body is having the real physical chemical reactions to it. These kind of reactions, which were meant to be helpful in the face of serious danger, are not helpful. They're not healthy when we experience them for prolonged periods of time. And that kind of stress leads to all kinds of health problems with the body systems, blood pressure problems, heart problems, metabolism, the immune system, impacts the cardiovascular system. People have heart attacks over stress. So when you're stressing yourself out, worrying about the past or the future or work or the person you're in a relationship with, and it's all negative and it gets you all stressed out, you're actually putting your physical health in danger. You're causing yourself to have negative emotional responses that make you unhappy, and you're putting yourself in a place that you don't want to be. I mean, some people glorify attitudes that are negative sometimes, but even in pop culture you see this, where we actually glorify negative thoughts. Like on a TV show, people who are happy and positive, and they're portrayed as kind of silly and dumb usually, but they walk around like, oh, I have no worries, everything's good, and they're made to look kind of silly. But then you have the flip side, which is the people who are dark and depressed. They're sarcastic and always moody, and oh, I have all these worries, and oh, I worry about crime and disease, and I'm often depressed because this world is in such a terrible shape, and oh, this makes me so deep and so intelligent and intellectual. And no, that's not the way it works. This kind of person isn't necessarily deeper or more of an intellectual. They just let themselves be mindless, and they're in the habit of thinking stressful thoughts. It's a real habit for our minds to race, to dwell on the negative. Many of us grew up in a push-button world. We learned to mentally change channels when something doesn't interest us. We're pushed to multitask. We're supposed to spread our focus thin over several things. We're supposed to be concerned about everything, or there's something wrong with us. We don't care. And it's no wonder we have a harder time paying attention to the moment. There's no wonder that our thoughts tend to jump and race, because so much is always going on around us, and we're trying to do so many things. So how do we break that habit? Practicing mindfulness can help. And it may take time. You might at first find yourself with your attention wandering away a lot. But you just keep bringing your awareness back to the present, back to your anchor, returning to the moment without judgment or frustration. And the more you do this, because it's okay if you do get distracted, the key is not to let that distraction carry you away and ruin the experience. So, oh wow, I was distracted. Bring it back to the moment. And the more you practice that, the less you'll find those distractions are bothering you. Happiness, peace, contentment. I mean, these things don't come from outside of us. People don't feel peaceful or joyful, happy because they have nothing to worry about. No one lives a problem-free life. No one's without serious problems at some time or another. It's not like happy and peaceful people are there because nothing happens to them and life is all hunky-dory. They live in the same world as we do. It's not like he's happy because he has no problems and she's miserable because she has all the problems. They both have the problems, but he's happy because he doesn't let his mind dwell on them and think over his problems, and he can calm his mind. While she dwells on the negative and stresses herself out, and she's just in a bad habit of letting her thoughts be frantic and worrying over things that she might not be able to do anything about right now. The state of calm, of happiness, of peace, of contentment, all comes from within, despite what's going on around you or what problems are plaguing you. Not because you lack problems, but despite the fact that you have them. It all stems from your brain and what it's doing, how it's processing things. And that's why we want to train our brains and discipline them. So what does all of this have to do with Wicca? Well, everything, I guess. If you understand Wicca as an actual religion, an actual spiritual path, something you live, not something you do. I hate the term when people say, oh, I want to learn to do Wicca, or I do Wicca. Because it's not something you do. It's like saying I do Judaism, or I do Christianity, or I do Catholicism. It doesn't work that way. It's not something you do. It's something you are. It's a lifestyle. And if you understand the religion of Wicca, it's supposed to be meaningful and fulfilling and help you grow. That's kind of how you know if your religion or if your spiritual path is the right one for you. It works for you. It's making you happier. It's making you a better person. It helps you. It improves your life. It's also the first step. Mindfulness, that is also the first step in that mental discipline that you're going to eventually need for when you're using your mind for other things in Wicca, like when you want to manipulate energy, or on your psychic abilities, or when you're going to be deeply communing with your gods in a trance, or with your higher self to help you on your path, or when you're doing magic and ritual and casting spells. If you can't learn to keep your mind in the present with what you're doing, it's going to be hard to get to all that stuff and be very successful at it. So as usual, the assignments for this lesson can be accessed through our Facebook page, and the link is below. And if you're over 18, if you can behave yourself reasonably well on public forums, you're welcome to join us in the Grove, where we have discussions about the lessons, questions in general, chats, and activities that we're always trying to plan. If you can get the assignments and do them, it'll really help improve your progress as a student of the Grove. And please, 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 please remember to like this video if you liked it, and to share this video if you got something out of it and you think others can. And if you're interested in this channel or in our Grove, please subscribe and ding that bell so you do get updates. And big thing is you can do for me comments, because YouTube algorithms really love that kind of engagement and it helps me out. So I also love it too, because I love to know if you're clear on what I'm trying to say, if I should explain something further, if I'm boring the pants off you, just let me know. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a magical day, everyone.